The other night, when I turned off the ink spigot, I wrote that I was going to tell how I came to quit the pulpit and went to bartending. That's an interesting little tale, but I'd like to get into this journal first, how I got into the pulpit. When I announced my intentions of taking up the ministry after listening to Dwight L. Moody, my mother said, "God bless you." My father was furious at first and said something else that amounted to directing the deity not to bless me, but he calmed down in a couple days and sent me off with $500 in my pocket. With all modesty, I must say that I learned very quickly, and after 6 months grinding theology and divinity, I was admitted to the ranks of the Protestant clergy and given a parish in the town of 5,000, located in one of the southern states. The name of the town was Dalton. The principal occupation was going to church on Sunday and attending horse races on Saturday. The congregation was satisfied with me, and I was satisfied with myself. I got a reputation for being a great pulpit orator. I could make the women cry and the men shout amen. My name spread, and I was just negotiating a change to a large city when something happened. If fate had not beckoned this something more in the direction of Dalton and strike the Dalton pulpit full blast, I might now be retired Reverend James Rex. But I don't want to blame fate. Poor old fate has enough complaints. It is more considerable to say that if Deacon Asper had been a good loser, I would still be in the pulpit. Deacon Asper was a pillar of the church, but he was not a good loser. I'll think a while before I ever try to raise a church debt with a church pillar. The deacon was an old wizened fellow and tight. His loud and long way of praying got him the name of being pious. There was a debt on the Dalton church when I took it, and I thought it would be a fine thing to pay that debt. I thought also that the deacon would feel honored by a request for a liberal contribution. But the deacon wasn't. He told me on the day I asked for $1,000 to trust the Lord. I trusted, but the debt remained. I studied over the matter and almost given up when one evening, as I was passing down the street behind the deacon, I saw him slip and fall. A small package flew out of his hand, and I heard the clatter of glass. The old fellow picked himself up and left the spot in an apparent hurry. I approached and found a banana peel there. If he had not slipped on that rind, I would never have known that the deacon was in the habit of carrying a bottle of whiskey home with him, for the odor about the spot was unmistakable. The next day I went to his house and put a plan before him. He was to place his money on Mary R. in the coming race in Dalton, when everyone was betting against Mary R. But Bertha Mix, the horse which all the money was to be placed, belonged to the deacon. So I shot the proposition square at the deacon. He was to put his money, in secret of course, on Mary R., but his rider was to make Bertha Mix lose. The proceeds of the little scheme were to go to the church. Deacon Asper hemmed and hawed at first and said that he was surprised. He thought better of a minister. "Well, you might keep half the stake and give half to the church," I suggested. The deacon seemed more pleased. "That's so, I might." So it was arranged. The day of the race arrived. The horses started, but something was wrong. The rider of Bertha Mix made an attempt to hold the horse in and won by 50 feet. The deacon came rushing to my house after the race. He was furious at me. I asked him where the rider was. He was outside and was called. When he came in, he looked about and began to whistle foolishly. I stepped up to him. He went on whistling in my face. One whiff of his breath explained the whole thing. He had been drinking and had forgotten to hold on the horse. Then Mr. Asper turned on the rider and roared. I tried to quiet him, but what can you do with a stingy pillar of the church who has lost $2,000? The story got out on us, and I was asked to resign. The little touch of the gambling got the best of me, but you should have seen the congregation when I read my resignation to them. I said, "Beloved sisters and brothers, it is with the deepest feeling of regrets that I relinquish my duties to your parish. I appreciate all of the little kindnesses you have showed me, but it is with a sense of relief that I inform you that I am leaving the pulpit indefinitely. I am an expert at gambling, and as the deacon should tell you, He would have made a great little sum, and the church would have been out of debt if your deacon had employed a writer who signed the pledge. I'm proud of the little scheme, if it did fail. I have accepted a position in Leadville, Colorado, a very wicked place. The position is that of a card dealer and bartender. Farewell. Then I stepped down and out, taking the next train for Leadville. But the look of that congregation. They were sitting with mouths open and eyes popping out. The deacon squirmed and forgot to say amen. So I left them turned to stone and staring at the pulpit yet, for all I know.